Hello, YouTube. I am Vince White. I am an employment attorney, and generally on this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. I must tell you to like and subscribe because that will help me to help more people just like you. Maybe you don't have a job. Maybe you don't like to work. Maybe you're a business owner. Maybe I can't actually help you. I can only help people who are employed or were recently employed in the past like 3 to 5 years, depending on where they are. However, today, we are not answering a publicly posted question. We are working on our series of how to approach employment attorneys to make sure that people are able to really vocalize their case, to verbalize their case to employment attorneys in order to better obtain the representation that might help them, both in terms of representation, experienced counsel, and just funding for your case, right? Like, generally in this field, attorneys are going to front a lot of the expenses for your case, and that can make litigation affordable. Potentially, right? In a way that maybe a pro se litigant might not be able to afford. Those expert witness fees, they stack up, right? So, what we're talking about today is the tension around questions from attorneys when you call up an attorney for a consultation. And I did a video yesterday about trying to learn from the questions the attorneys are asking you about your case. And in that learning process, tweaking your narrative, tweaking your story to make it more compelling for attorneys, right? I think that's real value there. But as I was chatting about that with another employment attorney, they said, what, people answer your questions? People won't even answer my questions. People call me up and just start screaming, right? Which is common in this industry, right? And I'm not making fun of those people. You would scream too, as would I, if someone picked out something core to your identity, your protected class, your disability, your sexual identity, your gender identity, your orientation, your race, like so many things, right? All the protected classes. Somebody was like, ooh, based on that characteristic of that person can't change. I'm going to deprive them of the means by which they pay for a roof over their heads and food and heat. I'm just going to make sure that I do everything I can to ensure that they'd perish on this earth, which is the context for employment law. Like people are like, oh, it's just a job, get a new job. That is not how that works. Like that is at most, listen, if you lose a job at Dunkin' Donuts and you want to go get a job at Taco Bell, maybe that works. Maybe you can get a new job in a week. I don't know. But at most levels of employment, it's not going to work. Most careers, it's not going to work. There's going to be a gap in employment, and that gap in employment will imperil your finances at best, and the lives and the quality of life of you and your family and your loved ones at worst. At worst, it can get worse. People, this is part of how people become unhomed, right? There's homeless people often, at some point, have an interruption in employment for some reason, and that spirals out of control. So like this, the stakes are high, and that is why people call up and they scream. This makes sense. But there's got to be something that comes after that. The screaming's not going to get the attorney to be like, I want to help you. The screaming is going to get the attorney to say, a crazy person called me and they just screamed at me and I couldn't understand what they're saying. So I eventually just told them I couldn't help them and I told them to go file the EEOC on their own, right? That didn't help anybody. Didn't help the plaintiff, the potential client that called. They didn't get any answers. They didn't learn anything about their case. They didn't get an offer of representation. Didn't help the attorney. The attorney makes money, presumably, in this field by helping people and taking a percentage of what they achieve. So everybody lost. The only person who won from that screaming interaction was, in fact, the employer who has escaped to another day, right? Who goes another day without having a claim brought against them. One day closer to the statute of limitations expiring because this miscommunication, this failure, this breakdown in communication between the attorney and the potential client occurred. So what does the attorney have to do? Ask questions. And that can be hard because we've talked in this series, in this playlist, about trauma loops and people not liking being questioned about their case and people wanting to say, like, it's the TPS reports. That's why it's discrimination. And yeah, the attorney has to be like, well, let's unpack that. Let's talk about that to understand why you feel being assigned this work task was discrimination. And not every potential client wants to answer those questions. Many feel like they're being mocked or challenged, and that can lead to a lot of nastiness on the phone, which serves no one. Just truly serves no one, right? So when you're asked when you call up an attorney for help and the attorney has questions, first thing you have to do is actually be willing to engage in question and answer. That is key to the process of obtaining counsel. Like, every attorney you call should have questions. If the only question the attorney has for you is how much money you got, run. That person doesn't care about your case. The person doesn't care about the viability and the strength of your case or how they're going to win it. They care about if you can pay them, right? So that's not a good question. But every attorney worth their salt is going to be instantly interested in knowing more about what happened to you and why you feel it's discrimination. And that's a good sign. That is not the attorney being combative. They might be combative while they're asking those questions, right? Like, if you're coming across in an aggressive way, like, not everybody has my Homer the punching bag from The Simpsons like mentality. Like, oh, you're screaming at me. That's fun. That's fun. Do you want? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to run down the rage meter, and then we can have a conversation. Like, most people aren't going to do that. Most people didn't work in a bar getting punched in the face for 10 years for, $20, $25 an hour. Like, it's just different mentalities, right? I come to this like, hey, you're angry. And you can't physically hurt me right now because we're on the phone. So I'm okay with that. Why don't we see if we can get somewhere where we can actually have a conversation, right? And that's not a normal human response, I'm told. So, listen, the attorney might be like, God damn it, stop screaming at me. Answer these questions, right? And you, as a very upset person, are going to hear that as like, this person doesn't care about me. But in reality, it's a you're engaging in a normal human reaction, which is to be very upset about the loss of your livelihood. And the attorney is engaging in a normal human reaction, which is, this person is screaming at me. I'm just trying to help. Why should I help this person? They keep screaming at me, right? Like, that's what the attorneys go through sometimes. I watch people do it. Listen, there's some people you can't train out of it. Like, there's some people who are like, no, they're screaming at me. I'm not going to take that. I get it, but it's not a recipe for success. Like, you got to take it on the chin to be able to help to some extent, right? But a lot of attorneys, you're going to call up, you're going to scream. I'm not saying you'll scream, but people scream or just don't want to answer questions. And you have to. You should, before you call, spend 5 minutes thinking about how you're going to listen and answer questions in this call. This is not your chance to vent. We're not your therapist. You're not paying us by the hour. If you are, I have questions about that attorney. So you have loved ones, friends, family, presumably. Or if you don't, that's okay. We've all been there. Get a mental health professional that you pay, but not your attorney, right? You can't just scream at us. That's not, nor are we really people who are well suited to helping you, right? If you experience a mental episode, if you have a really difficult mental illness, the best thing we can manage is to get you to your mental health professional, right? So go into the call with the assumption that you will be answering questions and engaged in a dialogue, not a rant. And then when those questions start to come, take a deep breath and say to yourself, I'm going to answer this question in good faith. And this person is taking time unpaid to try and help me. And so I'm going to actually listen to the question. Don't hear a question, not listen to it, and then say random things. That is what we call gibberish, right? And listen, I've had to shock people. Like, okay, so you are talking a lot of gibberish. I'm asking you questions. I need you to listen to the question and answer the question. I'm trying to help you. And these are difficult things when someone's in a trauma loop and they can't get out of it and they can't listen because they can only hear how upset they are, right? So go in planning with the intentionality to answer questions about your case that can help you. It can help you obtain representation. It can also help you to fine-tune your narrative so the next attorney you speak to can hear a more persuasive and compelling narrative and may make you an offer of representation. and then actually listen to the questions and actually answer them. And if you have other thoughts that come up when you're answering a question, have a pad in front of you and jot it down as something you want to add later, and say when you're done answering the question, and there's things I want to add to that. And I will say, great, I will give you 5 minutes at the end of these questions to add those things, but here's my next question, right? And I think other attorneys will do that also. And I think it will help you to speak to more attorneys in a more efficient manner and get more help from those attorneys and benefit you immeasurably to engage in this process. So be willing to answer questions, listen to the questions, and actually answer them. And don't be salty if it's not 2 questions, but 30 questions. This just means the attorney is more intrigued and is more willing to take time to try and help you. That is a very good sign. That is not the sign of someone challenging you. That is the sign of someone saying, there could be something here. I'm going to dig into this. I'm going to take the time to actually try to do this person some good and hopefully make them an offer of representation, but I need to know more. And that is a good thing. Although most people would hear it as a bad thing. They had 30 questions for me. I don't think they want my case. They had 30 questions for me. Who has 30 questions? I told them it was discrimination. They wanted to know why. And then they had 30 questions about that. No, that's a good sign. That is the best sign. That is the sign of someone actually doing the work to help you. Okay? I'm going to keep working on this series. I hope it helps folks. Like and subscribe. Helps me to help more people just like you. And I think it's going to help more people obtain representation from employment attorneys who are not me, which makes me very happy. Take care.